It is September 21st, 2019 on a Saturday. It's 4:53 p.m. I'm standing at near the front entrance of Timpview High School where I went to up till the 10th halfway through the 10th grade. Behind me is the main entrance. On the sidewalks, there used to do like contests on drawing on the sidewalks of different artistic things. As I pan around, that's like the wood shop and metal shop. And then this is the main parking lot. And up behind me is a seminary building. And near that wood shop was, where the driver's ed was. But anyway, and if I go behind me a little bit up on the foothills is where my Aunt Marie and Uncle Mike Wells used to live years ago, and I had lots of sleepovers. But yeah, this Timpview High School in Provo has a lot of memories, a lot of positive memories for me. This was when I was one of the happiest, most peaceful times of my life. Um, I remember there was a girl I liked named Tia Oborn, that went here, and she was a varsity cheerleader. And then another girl I went out with named Jamie Red which is probably I think the only date I went on the whole time I went here. And so I went here for uh, ninth and tenth, all of ninth grade, halfway through 10th grade. I went to a lot of school dances here, and um, after I dropped out of high school, because me and my dad moved to Orem, and I had to go to Mountain View, and it triggered the trauma from the foster home experience, and that's when I dropped out of high school and ran away from home. So this was the last year or so of my life, a year and a half to 2 years of my life before I dropped out of high school, and my life took a turn for the negative or whatever. Um, but one of the movies that I used to watch, a couple of movies that I'd watch that was about high schools would bring back memories of Timpview, like one that stands out. I know it's kind of funny, but like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or this other movie um, called 10 Things I Hate About You with Heath Ledger would remind me of Timpview. And it's a high school. If my dad hadn't have moved, if my uncle hadn't have been successful in talking my dad into buying a condo in Orem, we still would have lived in Provo, that basement apartment in downtown Provo, and I still would have graduated class of '99 here. And of course, one of my friends, Ray Froley, also known as Spence Froley, that's really his first name, he went here. And I have two cousins that went here, Kelly and Kristen Wells. And anyway, and other people like Jared Suman and Kristen Schofield, also known as Kennedy Schofield, went here. Um, but yeah, this was at a time in my life where I was the happiest, or one of the happiest times of my life. My dad was still alive, he was in decent health. And, I had not fully dealt with the trauma from the foster home experience and divorce, but I had somehow buried it down, so it wasn't consciously there as far as affecting me, but I knew it did still affect my learning ability because I was in special ed all the way to the ninth grade. It affected my social decisions and that, as far as dating and friends and stuff like that goes. But other than that, this is one of the happiest times of my life. This is around, I want to say, 96, 97, 1996, 1997 when I went here. And, after I dropped out of high school, this is the thing I always look back on and wishing I would have graduated with my class, wishing I would have graduated from Timpview High School. And later on, I made up for that in a way because I graduated from Utah Valley University in 2013, where I got my associate's degree, and both my dad and my mother was there for it. And that was 3 years after my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So, in that sense, I made up for it. But this is just like taking me back in a kind of a time warp of or a time bubble when I was so much happier. My dad was alive. He was in decent health, other than being overweight and diabetes. You know, me and my dad was still like going out to a movie every week, watching movies at home, like Back to the Future and other movies that we liked. We were still had wonderful birthdays and Father's Days and Christmases and and going out to eat and going to the mall and you know I had multiple friends I was hanging out with from Rafe Rowley, as I would call him, because Rafe's his middle name, but his name's Spencer Rowley, and he grew up here. He lived just a few blocks from here, and and then for a little bit of it, I was socializing with Eric Campbell, and still socializing with some of my friends in Linden, uh, Jacob Anderson and Mark James, and then I was having sleepovers at my Aunt Marie's house that was just up above Timpview on the foothills, and yeah, and it was the last set of happy moments before before I dropped out of high school and before a lot of the adult responsibilities and realities came into my life to where had those things to be concerned about. But this is in a lot of ways at the heart of my self-esteem and issues and my self-confidence issues, because this is the time where this was roughly 4 or 5 years, well, 5 or 6 years probably after my family broke up after the foster home experience. And even though I didn't seek help, or didn't really show a willingness to seek help, possibly, um, and other than the problems I mentioned earlier that I was dealing with my mental health, I still was, um, a lot happier. I had buried the trauma and was a B plus average student here at Timpview, and was going to a lot of the school dances, slow dancing with girls, and the yearbooks, and going to seminary, and just like this was a bubble or a time period in my life, and I was one of the happiest times of my life, and this was, you could say, the last time in my life before things really took a turn for the worst. Um, Before, you could say if this was a Back to the Future moment and I could go in the DeLorean and go back, it would be probably, if I were to prevent everything, I'd go back to before my parents even got married and talk my dad into marrying someone else. And I believe I still would have been my dad's son and born into his family. But if I didn't do that, I would at least go back to when I was going to Timpview here before I dropped out of high school and warn myself about the future and everything. Because dropping out of high school when we moved and running away from home and all that was the first pull of the thread on the sweater, unraveling the sweater, and it determined not my permanent fate for the rest of my life, but it made the following 10, 15, 20 years of my life a lot harder because of that one decision. And it wasn't just the one decision, it was the fact that I didn't choose to recover from it sooner and do something about it sooner. And seek, which would have been getting help, seeking a therapist, and overcoming my mental health issues before I got older and older. And of course, it doesn't do any good to, live in regret and wishy-wash about like I should have done something differently in the past. But this could be a lesson to look at my life right now and the future. I still believe I have a good 40, 50 years left in my life, and if I make the right decisions now, then I won't have to be 20 years from now going back to a certain location like this one and wishing, oh, I wish when I was 38, you know, that I would have made different decisions or whatever. Um, so anyway, um, yeah. this was a great time here. I really enjoyed it here. I still have my Timpview yearbook and a lot of good memories here. So I'm thankful for that.